January 30th, 2026, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. The United States Department of Justice uploads 3.5 million pages of documents to a government server. Within hours, 2 specific files disappear from the site. Then they're restored. Media outlets around the world scramble to download everything before it vanishes again. By morning, one name appears over 3,000 times in these documents: Donald Trump, the sitting president of the United States. My name is John Brooks, and this is the biggest investigation I've ever undertaken for Detective Brooks Stories. What you're about to see isn't just the story of Jeffrey Epstein. It's the story of how power protects power, how wealth buys silence, and how, even after death, the truth keeps trying to break through. This investigation spans 50 years, from a Brooklyn classroom in 1974 to the White House in 2026. From a math teacher with no credentials to a network that allegedly involved presidents, princes, billionaires, and scientists. And here's what makes this different from every other documentary you've watched about this case. We now have the documents. Not rumors, not speculation. Actual FBI files, actual emails, actual photographs. 3.5 million pages released just days ago. I've spent the last 72 hours analyzing these files. What I found will disturb you. Some of it will make you angry. All of it is documented. But before we get to January 2026, before we talk about what's in those files, we need to understand how we got here. Because this story doesn't start with an island. It doesn't start with a prison cell. It starts with a question that nobody asked in 1974. How does a 21-year-old without a college degree get hired to teach at one of America's most elite schools? Imagine you're the parent of a child at the Dalton School, Manhattan, Upper East Side. Tuition that costs more than most people's annual salary. Your child's classmates include the kids of Wall Street titans, media moguls, famous actors. You expect the best teachers, advanced degrees, prestigious credentials, years of experience. Instead, your child comes home talking about their new math teacher. He's young, 21 years old. Wears bell-bottoms and platform shoes. And here's the thing, he never graduated from college. His name is Jeffrey Epstein. This is where our story begins. And here's why it matters. The headmaster who hired him was Donald Barr. Keep that name in your head, because his son, William Barr, will become Attorney General of the United States 45 years later when Epstein dies in federal custody. And William Barr will oversee the investigation into that death. Coincidence? Maybe. But in this story, there are a lot of coincidences. Donald Barr left Dalton 3 months before Epstein started teaching. Whether he was involved in the hiring, we don't know. But we do know this. In 1973, Barr published a science fiction novel called Space Relations. The plot? A planet run by oligarchs who engage in organized exploitation of minors. I'm not making this up. You can look it up. The book exists. Former Dalton students remember Epstein differently. Some found him engaging, even inspiring. Others noticed something off. According to later testimony, he spent unusual amounts of time around female students in non-academic settings. He attended parties where teenagers were drinking. He was, as one student put it, too friendly. In 2009, during a legal deposition, prosecutors asked Epstein directly, "Did you have contact with students you taught at Dalton?" His answer? He invoked the Fifth Amendment, the constitutional right not to incriminate yourself. Think about that. A simple question about professional conduct, and he refuses to answer. June 1976. After 2 years at Dalton, Epstein is fired. Official reason: his teaching didn't meet standards. Most people would find another teaching job, or leave education entirely. Epstein went to Wall Street. Here's where things get interesting. While teaching at Dalton, Epstein had tutored the children of wealthy parents. One of them, Alan Greenberg, CEO of Bear Stearns, one of America's largest investment banks. By 1976, Epstein is working at Bear Stearns. No finance degree, no MBA, no formal credentials at all. Within 4 years, partner. Let that sink in. A former teacher with no college degree becomes a partner at a major Wall Street firm in 4 years. How? According to colleagues, Epstein was smart, charming, good at reading people, and he understood something fundamental. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know. His words, not mine. He said this repeatedly. It's not about what you know, it's about who you touch. Who you touch. Remember that phrase. 1981. Epstein leaves Bear Stearns. The official reason was never disclosed. Some say he left voluntarily. Others suggest he was quietly pushed out for violating internal rules. Either way, he's now free to build his own operation. He opens consulting firms, tells people he helps wealthy individuals recover stolen assets. According to New York Times investigations, what he actually did was run questionable financial schemes targeting affluent businessmen. One victim, Michael Stroll, invested $450,000 based on Epstein's promises, lost it all, took Epstein to court. Epstein won on technicalities. Stroll's description of Epstein to the Times: a despicable individual. But here's what's remarkable. Despite the lawsuits, despite the complaints, Epstein's reputation among the wealthy elite only grew. And then, in 1986, he met the man who would make him a billionaire, Les Wexner. Les Wexner. If you don't know the name, you know his companies: Victoria's Secret, The Limited, Bath & Body Works. By the mid-'80s, Wexner was one of the richest men in America. The person who introduced them warned Wexner explicitly, "I don't trust him." Wexner proceeded anyway. By 1987, Epstein is managing Wexner's finances. And then, in July 1991, something unprecedented happens. Wexner grants Epstein full power of attorney, complete control over his entire fortune. Read that again. A man worth billions gives total legal control to someone without a college degree. Epstein can now sign checks, buy property, sell assets, take out loans, anything, all in Wexner's name. According to Forbes, Epstein earned approximately $490 million in fees over his career. $200 million came from Wexner alone. But here's the question nobody could answer. What was Epstein actually doing? Officially, tax and estate planning. Problem: no professional licenses, no documented investment firm, no registered client base. Senator Ron Wyden revealed that Treasury Department files showed 4,725 wire transfers totaling over $1 billion from a single Epstein account. Other reports documented transfers exceeding $1.9 billion through 4 major banks. For a tax consultant, this is highly unusual. So what was really happening? The Manhattan mansion gives us a clue. 1989. Wexner buys a 7-floor townhouse on East 71st Street for $13 million. Record price for Manhattan real estate at the time. He spends millions more on renovations. It appears in Architectural Digest. But Wexner never moves in. Around 1995, Epstein occupies the mansion, starts telling people he owns it. The official property transfer? 2011, 16 years later. The price listed in city records? $0. Zero. For a property worth over $50 million. Journalist Vicky Ward visited in 2003. She documented unusual design elements, including, disturbingly, a copy of Marquis de Sade's work about exploitation of a minor sitting on Epstein's desk. According to the New York Times, the entire building was equipped with concealed surveillance cameras. One bathroom was lined with lead and had specialized security features. The mansion wasn't just a home. According to prosecutors, it was a location where criminal activity occurred. And according to documents released January 2026, it was where Epstein allegedly introduced a 14-year-old girl to Donald Trump. We'll come back to that, but first, you need to understand the woman who made all of this possible. December 25, 1961. France. Ghislaine Maxwell is born. Her father, Robert Maxwell, was a Czech-born Holocaust survivor who built a British media empire. Charismatic, ruthless, tyrannical. Ghislaine was his favorite child. She learned to navigate his volatile personality, a skill that would prove useful later. November 5, 1991. Robert Maxwell disappears from his yacht, found deceased hours later. Official determination: heart attack, and accidental drowning. Shortly after, it emerges that he stole over £400 million from employee pension funds. 32,000 people lost their retirement savings. The Maxwell family goes from wealth and prestige to scandal and shame overnight. Ghislaine flees to New York, and there she meets Jeffrey Epstein. What happens next, according to federal prosecutors, is the creation of a sophisticated criminal enterprise. The indictment is specific. Maxwell helped, facilitated, and participated in Epstein's illegal conduct, helping recruit and groom victims starting at least from 1994 through 2004. Here's how it worked. Maxwell would approach young women in social settings, resorts, colleges. According to witness testimony, even Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump's private club in Palm Beach, she targeted those who appeared financially vulnerable, offered what seemed like legitimate work, receptionist duties, administrative tasks, massage therapy for a wealthy client. Payment was substantial, $200 to $300 per session. For teenagers from struggling families, this was significant money. According to court testimony, what began as seemingly legitimate work quickly became something else. And then came the recruitment aspect. Victims were offered additional money to bring friends. Each new recruit, hundreds more dollars. This created a pyramid. Victims became recruiters who brought more victims. One witness, testifying under the name Carolyn, stated she was 14 when she began. According to her testimony, she had over 100 encounters with Epstein. From age 14 to 18, she testified Maxwell once physically examined her and commented she had an appropriate appearance for Mr. Epstein and his friends. But the most well-known case is Virginia Roberts Giuffre. Summer 2000. Virginia is 16, working at Mar-a-Lago's spa. She's reading an anatomy book during her break, dreaming of becoming a professional masseuse. Ghislaine Maxwell approaches her, offers employment as a traveling massage therapist. Good pay, no experience required. According to Virginia's testimony, when she arrived at Epstein's Palm Beach mansion, she encountered a very different situation. Virginia stated in legal filings that over approximately 3 years, she was compelled to have inappropriate contact with Epstein and other powerful individuals, including, she alleged, a member of British royalty. There's a photograph. 17-year-old Virginia, standing with Prince Andrew, his arm around her waist. Ghislaine Maxwell, visible in the background. Virginia stated she was forced to have contact with the prince on 3 occasions. He denied all allegations. In 2022, he paid her a confidential settlement, making no admission of wrongdoing. November 2025, he was stripped of all royal titles, and in the January 2026 document release, there's correspondence between Epstein and someone using the username Duke. The email address is redacted, but the message mentions Buckingham Palace and is signed. Media outlets believe this is Prince Andrew. April 2025. Virginia Giuffre passed away in Australia, age 41. Her memoir, published posthumously, sold over 1 million copies worldwide. But the network extended far beyond one victim, one prince, or even one country. It extended to an island. 1998. Epstein purchases Little St. James Island for $7,950,000, approximately 70 acres in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Over the next 20 years, he transforms it. Guest houses, pools, a library for 9,000 books, a telecommunications tower. By 2005, he's installed dedicated underwater cables for electricity and internet, complete autonomy from the mainland. He calls it Little St. Jeff. By 2008, 70 employees work there, all sign non-disclosure agreements. Steve Scully, an IT contractor who worked there from 1999 to 2005, told ABC News he observed inappropriate photographs throughout Epstein's workspace. According to Scully, the individuals appeared to be minors. Scully terminated his contract. He had 3 daughters. On the island's highest point, a distinctive structure, blue and white stripes, golden dome, subject of intense speculation. According to the designer, the door had an unusual locking mechanism. On the exterior, not interior, as if designed to keep someone inside, not keep intruders out. Flight logs document numerous high-profile visitors, scientists, Business leaders, politicians. According to documents released January 2026, these logs include correspondence with Elon Musk. In one email, Epstein asks Musk how many people will be in the helicopter to the island. Musk replies that it will likely be him and his then-wife. Another email from Epstein: what day or night will have the craziest party on our island? Our island. Not my island, our island. Epstein responds that New Year's would be good for a visit, then adds, always space for you. A play on words. Space. SpaceX. Always space for you. Musk has stated publicly he never visited the island. The emails show he was planning to. Whether he actually went, the documents don't confirm. But the emails exist in official FBI files. Then there's Bill Gates. According to an email Epstein sent to himself in July 2013, like a note or reminder, Gates had allegedly contracted an infection after relations with, quote, Russian girls. In a draft email from Epstein to Gates, he writes, on top of everything, you're begging me to delete emails regarding your infection. Your request that I provide you antibiotics so you could secretly give them to Melinda and a description of your anatomy. Gates's representative called these claims absurd and false from a known liar, but the email exists in the FBI files, and Russian or Eastern European women appear throughout the documents. Film producer Steve Tisch, owner of the New York Giants, appears in the files over 440 times. In April 2013, Epstein introduces Tisch to someone named Katya. She identifies herself as Ukrainian, says she's excited to meet an Oscar-winning producer. Days later, Tisch emails Epstein, subject line, Ukrainian girl, says he just had lunch with his assistant's friend, calls her very sweet and asks, what do you know about her? Epstein responds with details, says she has an older boyfriend in acting school, describes her physically, then adds, I'm happy to see you as a new but obviously mutual friend. Tisch asks, is she professional or civilian? Professional meaning, presumably, someone engaged in transactional relationships. Epstein says she's civilian but adds, she's Russian and rarely tells the truth. Later, after a presumed meeting, Epstein writes Tisch, did everything go well? She's a bit concerned about the age difference, but go slow and I'll try to convince her not to return to Ukraine. These aren't allegations. These are emails from FBI files. And then there's the sitting president of the United States. This is where the January 2026 document release becomes explosive. Donald Trump's name appears over 3,000 times in these files. Some mentions are innocuous. Social gatherings, business discussions, the kind of contact you'd expect between two wealthy New Yorkers who moved in the same circles. But some mentions are not innocuous. According to testimony in the files, Epstein allegedly introduced Trump to a 14-year-old girl at a private residence in Florida in the mid-90s. The testimony comes from an unnamed individual describing what a friend told them. Not firsthand, not verified in court, but it's in the FBI files. The same files include testimony alleging that 30 years ago, Trump participated in gatherings at a California ranch where, according to the witness, some young women were allegedly harmed and buried on the property of a golf club. Again, these are witness statements, not proven facts. They were given to FBI investigators, some provided right before the 2020 election. The Department of Justice issued a statement calling these claims baseless and false, and suggesting they were politically motivated. But they're in the files. Released by Trump's own Justice Department, there's also mention of Mar-a-Lago. According to witness testimony, Epstein allegedly brought minors there for what was described as an auction for wealthy individuals. Trump has denied any knowledge of Epstein's criminal activities. He's stated publicly that he banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago years ago after learning of inappropriate behavior. But the files also show something else. Trump and Epstein were in contact for years. There are references to phone calls, social events, business discussions. And here's what's particularly significant. Trump initially resisted releasing these files. For years, he opposed their publication. Only in November 2025 did he change position, asking Republicans to support legislation mandating release. Why the change? We don't know. What we do know, when the files were released on January 30th, 2 documents briefly disappeared from the Justice Department website. Then they were restored. Democrats allege the administration is withholding approximately 50% of the files without proper justification. The current Attorney General? Pam Bondi, Trump's former attorney. She defended him during his 2020 impeachment. The optics are problematic. A sitting president whose name appears thousands of times in files about a convicted criminal. Files released by a Justice Department run by his former lawyer. Congress is now demanding answers. Some Democrats are floating the possibility of impeachment proceedings if additional evidence emerges. Trump's allies suggest the entire release is a political attack designed to undermine his presidency. Who's right? That's not for me to decide. I'm just showing you what's in the documents. But there's more, because these aren't the only names in the files. Howard Lutnick, current U.S. Secretary of Commerce, close Trump ally. According to emails from 2012, Lutnick and his family planned lunch on Epstein's island. Later correspondence suggests the meeting occurred. This matters because Lutnick previously claimed he cut all contact with Epstein in 2005 after, quote, seeing his true nature. The emails suggest contact continued at least 7 years longer. Steve Bannon, former senior advisor to Trump during his first term. The files show extensive correspondence between Bannon and Epstein in 2019, shortly before Epstein's arrest. They discussed politics, potential meetings, joint projects, even a documentary that Bannon allegedly proposed to improve Epstein's reputation. In one email, Epstein writes something to the effect of, "Now you understand why Trump wakes up in the middle of the night when he hears we're friends." Kevin Warsh, just nominated by Trump to head the Federal Reserve. He appears on a guest list for a Christmas dinner organized by Epstein. His Senate confirmation hearing is upcoming. Will this matter? We'll see. The files are massive, 3.5 million pages. Journalists and investigators are still processing them. But patterns emerge. Wealthy men, young women, often from Eastern Europe, financial transactions that don't quite make sense, surveillance systems, non-disclosure agreements, and at the center of it all, a man who should have been in prison decades earlier but somehow kept evading consequences. Until he didn't. March 2005. A mother in Palm Beach contacts police. Her 14-year-old daughter received $300 to provide massage services to an older man. Detective Joseph Recarey begins investigating. Over 13 months, he interviews approximately 30 individuals. Most were minors at the time of alleged incidents. Each describes similar patterns. Recarey compiles detailed reports, recommends serious charges, sends the case to County Prosecutor Barry Krischer. And here's where things get strange. According to Police Chief Michael Ryder, Krischer acts as though he's defending the suspect, not prosecuting him. He expresses skepticism about witness credibility, proposes minor charges that wouldn't require registration. Frustrated, Ryder goes directly to the FBI. The case lands on the desk of federal prosecutor Alexander Acosta. The FBI opens Operation Leap. By May 2007, prosecutors have prepared an indictment on 60 counts, 36 identified victims, potential sentence, life imprisonment. But Epstein assembles a legal dream team. Alan Dershowitz, Kenneth Starr, Roy Black, top attorneys who cost millions. They attack witnesses, question investigators, apply pressure through high-level connections. Kenneth Starr writes directly to the Deputy Attorney General, the second-ranking prosecutor in the United States. And in September 2007, Epstein signs a non-prosecution agreement. The deal: immunity from all federal charges, guilty plea to 2 state offenses, sentence: 18 months in county jail. Most significantly, immunity for all unnamed co-conspirators. This means Ghislaine Maxwell and anyone else who helped Epstein received federal protection. The conditions are extraordinary. Epstein gets work release. He can leave jail 12 hours daily, 6 days weekly, allegedly to work. He serves 13 months. July 2009, released. The victims weren't informed. Federal prosecutors violated the Crime Victims' Rights Act by not notifying victims before finalizing the agreement. Only in February 2019, 11 years later, Does a judge rule that prosecutors violated victims' rights? Why such a lenient deal? Acosta claimed prosecutorial pragmatism. Critics called it unprecedented and inexplicable. In 2017, President Trump nominated Acosta as Labor Secretary. The Senate confirmed him. But in November 2018, everything changed. Miami Herald journalist Julie K. Brown published Perversion of Justice, a massive investigation documenting approximately 80 women who stated Epstein had harmed them. She showed how prosecutors collaborated with defense attorneys to hide the plea deal from victims. Public outrage was immediate, and 7 months later, Epstein was arrested again. July 6, 2019. Epstein's private aircraft lands at Teterboro Airport, New Jersey. FBI agents are waiting. This time, Southern District of New York prosecutors, one of the most aggressive federal offices in America. The next day, agents search the Manhattan mansion, find hundreds, possibly thousands of inappropriate photographs. Some appear to depict minors, compact discs with handwritten labels. July 8th, charged with conspiracy to traffic minors and trafficking of minors. He pleads not guilty, requests bail, judge denies. He's sent to Metropolitan Correctional Center, Manhattan. 35 days later, he's found deceased in his cell. The circumstances remain disputed. July 23rd, guards find Epstein in his cell with marks on his neck. He's placed on enhanced observation, checked every 15 minutes. After 31 hours, removed from observation, psychologists determine he's no longer at risk. August 8th, executes a will, $577 million to a trust. August 9th, his cellmate is transferred. No replacement assigned, despite explicit directives that he must have a cellmate. Night of August 10th, alone in his cell. 2 guards assigned to check him every 30 minutes don't conduct checks for 8 hours. They falsify logs. Later investigation reveals both were asleep and shopping online. Surveillance cameras aren't recording due to a technical problem that had existed since late July. Morning of August 10th, guards find Epstein unresponsive, suspended from the bunk. 6:39 a.m., pronounced deceased. Medical examiner, consistent with ending one's own life by suspension. But forensic pathologist Michael Baden, retained by Epstein's estate, disagrees. Notes injuries more commonly associated with external force. Attorney General William Barr, whose father Donald Barr hired Epstein at Dalton, states he personally reviewed footage and believes the medical examiner's determination. Inspector General's report documents extensive failures, but concludes, no evidence of criminal homicide. Public skepticism remains widespread. With Epstein's death, criminal charges are dismissed, but prosecutors pledge to continue investigating others. July 2nd, 2020. FBI arrests Ghislaine Maxwell in New Hampshire. December 29th, 2021. Guilty on 5 of 6 counts. June 28th, 2022. Sentenced to 20 years. Appeals denied. She remains imprisoned at FCI Tallahassee. But what about everyone else? November 2025. President Trump signs the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Justice Department given 30 days to release all records. Passes both houses unanimously. January 30th, 2026. Justice Department releases 3.5 million pages. Democrats allege approximately 50% remains withheld. The files show Epstein maintained contact with numerous powerful individuals, technology leaders, finance executives, politicians, academics. Being photographed with someone doesn't prove criminal knowledge. Many have stated they had limited contact and were unaware of Epstein's activities. But patterns emerge in these files. Young women, Eastern Europe, financial irregularities, surveillance, secrecy, and names. So many names. The Epstein Victims Compensation Fund has distributed over $120 million to more than 130 claimants. Properties sold. Proceeds to victims. But not all survivors lived to see justice. April 2025. Virginia Giuffre passed away, age 41. Her final words at a 2019 press conference: "What matters isn't how Jeffrey died. it's how he lived. And we need to address everyone involved, starting with Ghislaine Maxwell and continuing through the entire network. So where does this leave us? Jeffrey Epstein was a convicted offender who, according to federal findings, exploited dozens of minors over multiple decades. He used wealth and connections to evade serious consequences for years. Ghislaine Maxwell is serving 20 years. The justice system gave him an extraordinarily lenient deal in 2008. When he was finally held accountable in 2019, he died under disputed circumstances. And now, in 2026, we have 3.5 million pages of documents showing the full scope of his network. These documents implicate, by name, some of the most powerful people in the world: current and former presidents, business titans, members of royal families, political advisors currently serving in government. Some of these mentions are clearly innocent: social contact, professional meetings, the kind of interactions wealthy people have. But some are not innocent. Some suggest knowledge. Some suggest participation. Some suggest active facilitation. Do these documents prove criminal conduct by everyone named? No. That would require trials, evidence, due process, but they raise questions. Serious questions about who knew what, when they knew it, and what they did about it. The Trump administration says approximately 50% of the files remain classified for various reasons: privacy concerns, ongoing investigations, national security. Democrats say this is obstruction, that a president whose name appears thousands of times in these files is hiding evidence. Who's right? I don't know. Neither do you, not yet. But here's what we do know. The full truth hasn't emerged. Despite 3.5 million pages, questions remain. Who else was involved? Who knew and stayed silent? Who profited and faced no consequences? These questions persist, and until there are complete answers, this story isn't finished. Because somewhere in those remaining files, in those redacted sections, in those unreleased materials, more truth exists. And eventually, it will emerge. It always does. This has been Detective Brooks Stories. If this investigation provided value, subscribe and turn on notifications. We examine cases that deserve continued attention. Cases where powerful people want the questions to stop. Share this with others who believe in accountability. Until next time, stay informed, stay questioning, never stop demanding answers. Because in the end, that's how the truth wins. Not through violence, not through conspiracy theories, not through political tribalism, through documentation, through investigation, through persistence. The files are public now. 3.5 million pages. The work of analyzing them has just begun, and we'll be here, going through them, following the evidence, wherever it leads, even if it leads to the most powerful office in the world. That's our job. That's what we do. I'm John Brooks. This is Detective Brooks Stories, and the investigation continues.